before all of this other stuff went down, she said, do you want to talk about, and I said, it's up to you. If you're happy, I'm happy. And then all this additional stuff happened.
So yes, I mean, I know that Big Brother is over, but people have still been talking about it like crazy. Overall, I mean, how would you say your experience was on the show?
I can say that Celebrity Big Brother was one of the hardest things I've ever done.
Really?
By far, because even though when you're watching the show, it seems like I was there a day, I was in 7 days of quarantine. And then that was my 12th day in the house. So that was, I'm not great at math, but that was a lot of time away from my family. Yeah. And then especially with no phone, no communication, it was very, very challenging. Yeah. But, I came home very appreciative for the life that I do have. Was it nice in some way not to have your phone? Especially, I'm sure not when you have kids, it's probably not a nice thing to not have your phone, but was it nice to kind of unplug from social media for a little bit? For sure. That part's great. Like you really realize how much time you spend on your phone, whether it's with work or social media or anything, Wordle. But not being able to check in with my kids, the only way I could kind of compartmentalize it was to say, if something were actually wrong, they would have to let me know. Right. Yeah. No, that's very true. Do you see yourself being friends with any of the cast for a long time? And if so,
yeah,
who? I do. I still talk to Carson and Cynthia and Shayna and Chris. I mean, I pretty much, I talk to a big portion of them.
Yeah. Who surprised you the most on the show?
Surprised me the most. I think in order to be surprised, I would have had to know who was going to be in there and then be shocked. But it kind of walked in and just everybody was a surprise.
Yeah.
The only person I had heard on the internet that was going to be there was Todrick, and that was correct.
Yeah. We'll talk about Todrick in a second, but I know that you mentioned that you gained some weight while you were in the house. Did you lose it all? Do you plan on losing it all? I mean, you look fantastic. You don't need to lose everything.
Thank you. It wasn't necessarily about the gaining the weight. I mean, I did gain the weight. I've lost probably half of it. But the biggest thing for me was really just I wanted to go in and just fully experience everything. So whatever anybody cooked, whatever anybody did, I went for it. That being said, I felt myself very lethargic when I got out from having all the cakes and all of the things all of the time. I think there's a healthy balance. And I think I definitely went the opposite way just because there's nothing to do in there. I mean, even working out, I would do the elliptical every day or try to do like little hit workouts, but you have no music.
That's tough. That is really tough.
You're just in silence, like hearing yourself breathe.
You're like, this is miserable. Do you ever regret being like open and honest with like weight gain, weight loss? Because, obviously some people have a lot to say about that. And do you ever regret doing anything like that?
I don't, because ultimately when I didn't talk about it, it was the most unhappy I was because I held everything in. I developed a chip on my shoulder. And regardless if, maybe it annoys those 6 people on the internet, but there's hundreds of people that are like, I feel you. And that happens to me as well. And thank you for sharing. It means so much to me because I thought I was alone or whatever it was. And I think the biggest thing, no matter what you're going through in your life, is to not feel like you're alone.
No, definitely. And go ahead.
Yeah, it gives me peace.
Yeah. No, and it's so true. We all yo-yo. We all go up and down with our weight and things like that. And it's nice that other people are going through the same thing.
And I think also oftentimes fitness influencers and people like that are scared to share those types of things because then am I a failure? Did I let my clients down or whatever it is? But no, that makes you real.
No, definitely.
And plus it also holds me accountable. I know that I feel better when I'm not eating a ton of processed foods. When I'm drinking water and not Diet Coke, like whatever it is, like I know. So in order for me to be a good coach or be a good person to them, I have to share my experience.
Yeah, definitely. Who is the best cook in the house?
Ooh, Carson and Cynthia. I mean, Carson and Cynthia pretty much cooked every meal and both of them are excellent.
Nice.
I'm really good at dishes.
Yes, same here. Did your dad finally figure out what Big Brother was?
I mean, He kind of always, I mean, he knew the second I told him, I explained it to him, but the first time he watched it was when I was on the show. And then him and my brother were watching the live feeds. And when I came out, everyone was cracking up because my brother's favorite thing to do was to Insta story me sleeping.
I love it.
Like at night and be like, oh, there she is, crushing it.
I love it. And everybody's been talking about Todrick and kind of the fallout from that. Have you heard from him at all? Has anyone on the cast heard from Todrick?
I don't know if anyone on the cast have. Mm-hmm. I have not. I made it very clear kind of where I stand on that. I think I was never fake to him. I was always straightforward. And, a lot of people that didn't watch the live feeds are a little bit confused on what went down, but he went past playing the game. I understand it's a game and you should play it with your full heart and do what you got to do. And there's going to be alliance switches and all of that. But it's the things he said about a lot of us personally that weren't necessary. It was taking it too far. And, at the end of the finale, I didn't even go over because I can't be fake like that. That's not who I am. So I was like, I just make it clear that I drew my line in the sand right here.
Mm-hmm. Was there something that he said about you that really bothered you? Rubbed you the wrong way?
I mean, multiple things, but one of them was, when I first got into the house, he repeatedly said, oh, I've never seen you on the show. Like, I don't know who you are. And great, you don't have to. Mm-hmm. But then the second that I left, he kept saying to everybody, well, she's got a rich, hot husband to go home to and blah, 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 and all of these things. And that was behind my back, but also, yeah, I'm grateful for the life that I have and all of those things, but don't hold it against me and don't pretend you don't know who I am and then say I have a hot husband. Right. I don't like that. And then to my face, ultimately, there was something that happened in the house and we had a conversation. It was shown on the lives and he tried to really turn it around on the other people about how they were feeling and, something between Ton Bridges and I, like all of these things that just weren't true. Mm-hmm. And when I talked to them, when I got out of the house, they were like, that absolutely didn't happen. He was the one that came to us and said those things. So there was a lot of drama in the house prior to us going live and he just really fed into it and really in a very toxic way.
Yeah. I mean, there were rumors that he was really upset after the finale. Did you see that as well?
Well, after the finale, if you weren't in the top 3 or winning America's Favorite House Guest, then you just left. But they stayed and did press. So we never, after we took our final pictures, like we were out. We were at Lance Bass's after parties. That's all I know.
Sounds like the place that you want to be. But I know that he hasn't spoken out, like he didn't do interviews and things like that. Do you think that's fair?
I think probably sometimes it's better just to reflect and get yourself to a place where you know how you're going to speak on it. I think he probably needed to watch and figure out. I think a lot of the times he forgot some of the things that he said and did. I don't know. I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt that hopefully he is going to see some of the things and realize he made some mistakes. That being said, he personally hasn't reached out to me and apologized for anything.
Yeah. Do you think that he should, or do you think that he's going to recognize his mistakes?
I don't know. And I don't care about him personally apologizing to me. There's people that he said way worse things about that I think they're a priority. But, it does. When I went into the house, I was warned about him from someone and I still trusted that he was going to be okay because he was so lovely to me. And I was like, oh, maybe they saw a different, and ultimately I probably should have listened to them. Right.
Do you think that he was surprised by the backlash that he got following the show? Like once probably.
Yeah, I think he thought he was crushing it. Mm-hmm. You could tell in his confessionals, you could tell when he was preparing his, winner speech, all of those types of things. And I think ultimately he knew the game so well. I mean, he had like previous cast staying at his house. I mean,
yes. He was studying up.
He knew.
Yeah.
It wasn't like us where we're in quarantine trying to watch and figure out what the heck we're doing.
Exactly. How's Shanna doing? Have you spoken to her? I know that she's obviously had a rough few days.
We've spoken a little just via text message and just let her know that I'm there for her. I just know she's really sad and I can't even imagine what she's going through, and my heart breaks for her. And I just hope that she's, able to heal and process all of the things that happened.
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, it's such a scary situation. Did you end up meeting Matthew at the after party? And did you end up talking to Shanna about those DMs that he sent you?
I never actually talked to her about the DMs. I mean, she knew that it happened, and she said before all of this other stuff went down, she said, "Do you want to talk about?" And I said, "It's up to you. If you're happy, I'm happy." And then all this additional stuff happened, and I did meet him at the after party. And I mean, he seemed fine there. It was a nightclub.
Right.
Yeah. So it's very hard to tell. Yeah.
Right. No, totally. Well, I hope that she's okay. And I'm glad that to hear that, she said that she was doing okay, because it's like we said, a really scary situation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely. I hope she stays safe, and I hope he stays away.
Yeah, no, I mean, what was, because it seems like the two of you sparked somewhat of a friendship on there. I mean, what is it about her that you kind of gravitated towards?
She's really fun, and she's great to have conversation with, and she's an open book. I love that it didn't feel forced or fake. Like, she really shares stories about her life, the good, the bad, the ugly. Like, she's open. And to me, anytime somebody's open and willing to share, it makes it very easy to connect with them. When you're dealing with a more surface person that only talks about fluff, it's hard for me to connect.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you think Lamar has another chance with Chloe? I love, he's talking.
He is just the sweet, he is the sweetest. I don't know. I hope great things happen from here for his career and all of these things. But sometimes you just have to go forward, and you can't go back.
No, totally. I know. It just kind of breaks your heart a little bit every time we spoke about her.
I know.
You and Tamra have been doing such a great job on your podcast. I absolutely love it. What is it about the two of you that you initially bonded over? Because you guys have such a great rapport together.
We have so much fun. I had been doing Teddi Teapot for a long time, and I'd gotten to the point where I was just, I was like, I'm showing up here, I'm doing this. And I kept asking, I said, I really want to co-host. And iHeartRadio was like, listen, if you'd be willing to talk about Housewives, we'll give you a co-host. And I said, well, can I pick who? And they said, well, yeah, we can't guarantee that they'll say yes. And I said, can I pick Tamra Judge? Because I want somebody who we're not always going to 100% see eye to eye, is not scared to share their opinions, and also was a housewife.
Right.
And because that's what we can speak on. Plus, we have very similar, views on certain things. So there's enough of a connection. No, we are we always say you're only as good as last week's episode. Right. So we're going in as viewers. We may love a housewife one episode, and the next week we are like, she was never my favorite. When did I say that? We are like two girls chatting, at coffee or champagne. And
so who's at the moment today? Who's your favorite housewife?
Oh, my favorite housewives. Well, the problem is I have not watched Jersey yet, and I feel like last night was a real doozy. So I can't say for sure, but I love me a messy housewife.
Yeah, I do too.
I can say that. I love the drama on watching those shows. And, when people call somebody, a pot stirrer, using the other word, I'm like, yes, you're doing your job, honey.
Exactly.
Hold up that mimosa or that orange or hand on the hip or whatever it is. I love it.
I love it too. You did make some appearances on last season of the show. Will we see you back on Beverly Hills at all this season?
There's one episode where I'm working for Extra, and I'm covering an event that the housewives are at. But in regards to filming in scene, I doing a drop-in like that is not something I'm interested in doing.
Yeah. Do you miss it at all?
There are times. The good news is the women that I'm friends with, I still see and talk to all the time. So that's not missing. But it was a big part of my life for a long time, but I'm happier without it.
Yeah.
But of course you miss things. It's like that boyfriend that, didn't treat you the best, but you still think about him from time to time.
Exactly. I know that like there was conversations about coming back as a friend role. Did you ever want to do that? Or is that something that's just not for you now?
No, I think, a conversation, if I was ever to come back, would be as a housewife. But knowing now what it feels like to step in for a second, just even that one dinner last year, it didn't feel right to me.
Yeah.
And I think then it puts you in a situation where you have to deliver in the moment and then it all comes down on you. And really you're not being paid as a housewife. You're making money, but nowhere near. You're essentially doing a job at a different, it's not something I'm willing to compromise at this point.
No, definitely. You're like, I don't need the drama for that. I'm like, don't need to deal with it. But, Dorit obviously went through something that was super scary when her house was broken into. How are you all there for her? I talked to her not so long ago. It seems like she's doing okay since then.
She seems to be doing great. I mean, as great as could be expected. It was such a traumatic experience, but she was so strong. She really was. And of course, we're all there for her, whatever it is that she needs. But the amazing things is that her kids never had to go through it. They didn't realize what happened. So I think that's key.
Yeah, no, definitely. Do you and Erica talk at all? I mean, she was, very open last season. I know that you spoke to her when you were with the Extra. I mean, how is she doing now? And do you expect her to be as open and honest as she was last season coming into this season?
Yeah, I think she will be. I think that if not more.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that she's really going to be sharing a lot.
Right. And like you said, you and Tamra, recap the Housewives. You've been talking about OC. I know a lot of people picked up where you said that maybe Heather Dubrow was a little self-producing this season. What do you think about her coming back? And maybe that was taken out of context, but what do you think about her coming back this season? And do you think that she kind of lived up to the hype? Or is...
Here's the thing. I think she's fine for the show. Like, I think it's definitely way better than it was last year. So I think that, great. And being self-produced it's not a terrible thing. It's just something that as a housewife, as a former housewife, you can see when it's happening. Mm-hmm. And it is what it is. But I get it. You want everything to appear perfect and great and wonderful. And maybe it is for her, but you can tell. Maybe self-produced was the wrong word. Maybe we can say micromanaging. Mm-hmm. And I'm a micromanager myself, so I understand. It's not me putting her down. It's just an observation that I can tell she wants things as, in a certain way and shown in a certain light.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, to look and feel a certain way. And I totally agree with you. And, we have had some new housewives on OC this season with Noella, Dr. Jen. What are your first impressions of them? I know that we're obviously a few episodes in right now, but what do you think that they're bringing to the show? Because this was a transformative season for OC, they were saying.
I mean, I think ultimately I hope that it feels like more of a connection as the show goes on, because right now it feels very disjointed. And I think that's the hardest thing, when it doesn't feel like everybody is actually has a true friendship with one another, or at least some people don't. It doesn't feel as organic to me watching. So that's why I love Jersey.
Mm-hmm. Same. Yeah. Because
everybody is so intertwined and truthfully intertwined, not just showing up, miking up and starting, to film. Like, they are immersed in each other's lives. And that's what I like to watch.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. It's, you have the family connection, you have friends from way back in the day. It just, everybody gels together, and those fights, the drama is very real.
Yeah. Yeah. And you can feel it. It's palpable. Whereas, on OC, for example, you're seeing a lot of the show play out in these confessionals.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Versus the in-scene moments. And then they're having like separate scenes it just...
Yeah,
they got to work on it.
They got to work on it. Well, I loved Salt Lake City this season. I thought it was absolutely fantastic. I mean, but a big talking point was that Mary didn't show up for the reunion. Is that like a huge housewife mistake?
Well, I mean, it's a huge housewife mistake in the fact that it means that you're not coming back the next season.
Yeah.
But I think for them, they were code red. There goes our storyline. I mean, what are we going to do? Because then they all started having to pick off on each other, at least in episode 1, because their main person was a no-show.
Yeah. That's pretty. That wasn't a good look.
And the seating chart had to be all askew. I was like, what is happening here? Why is Ginny in the middle between Lisa and Meredith? And then I was like, oh, it's because what we forget when you're watching Housewives is when you are a housewife, you're not seeing these last couple episodes until the day or two before the reunion. Mm-hmm. So you have all new things to get angry about.
Right.
So they couldn't have Lisa and Meredith next to each other with all that had gone down.
With all that had gone down. Yes, definitely. And I know Dove recently celebrated her 2nd birthday. I can't believe that I think I talked to you maybe like a few weeks after she was born, like right when the pandemic started. So I can't believe that has been 2 years.
I can't believe it either. And, this was her first, things are opening up a little. So we had, she was able to have some friends over and stuff like that. And we had it all outdoors and everything. But it was one of those parties where, how some parties are really about the adults? Right. Dove had fun the entire time. She was raging. Slate was running around, like acting like she was like the hostess with the most. It's like the kids had a blast. And that's really what's so important to me, because the worst is when you're at a kid's party and you're sitting there and all the kids are miserable and the parents are having the time of your life. Like, you want it to be both.
Yes, no, definitely. No, it looks like everybody had a great time. And I know you probably get this question all the time, and I think you've put the kibosh on this, but your family feels complete now, right?
Yes. My husband, between you and Edwin, I'm like, I can't with you guys. I'm so happy where our life is right now. I understand that Edwin, in moments, he's like, maybe we could have one more because it's so amazing. The kids are so incredible. But we're at the place where I'm excited for us all to be able to do things together as a family, travel. And I don't want it to become a situation where then, we have another baby and then it's okay, we're not going to be able to do those things that we all want to do together. I don't want to wait till my kids are in college and I have one in, kindergarten.
Right. I totally feel you. You're like, we want to not be tied down by nap schedules, diapers, things like that.
Yeah, just do all the things together.